to Horses, Hope, and Hustle, the podcast where faith leads, grit drives, and the Western way of life runs deep. I'm your host, Crystal Show, wife, horsewoman, entrepreneur, and believer that God doesn't waste the hard stuff. Around here, we talk real stories, big dreams, and the kind of hustle that's rooted in hope. So pull your hat down, pour that coffee, and let's ride. Today's episode is a special collaboration with Reba Talbott, host of the Western Grace podcast. We're talking about faith, identity, and what it looks like to walk with both grit and grace in the Western lifestyle. If you're building a life rooted in purpose and staying true to who you are, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. And don't forget to follow Western Grace Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Perfect. Well, for our listeners today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing more of a collaboration episode rather than, I don't know what the normal is, whatever the normal is. So, Reba, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. My name is Reba Talbott, and I'm the host of the Western Grace podcast. And it's just been a passion project. It's just getting started, but it's already kind of going crazy directions I would never have predicted or expected it to go. So I think sometimes when you just say, Jesus, take the wheel, be prepared because you've got no control.
It's going.
It's going. Absolutely. So
very cool. Well, I'm Crystal Show, host of Horses, Hope, and Hustle podcast. Very similar situation, passion project of mine that I just felt very called to share stories of others and bring the real and the raw side of the industry to light.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the destination behind mine was getting to a place where it was the raw, real, authentic stories, true life stories of hope and inspiration. Pretty heavy on the faith base, behind it. But I think within our Western industry, there are so many people with so many stories to be told, and they offer people a source of hope. Sometimes when you're like, whoa, I'm not the only person going through that. I thought it was just me. Or, oftentimes there is a community out there, that you could be a part of that you have no idea. And I think you and I got a chance to talk last week about that. And I think that, one of your grand ideas is building a community, and there's something super powerful in that and really moving, especially in our Western industry. As tight-knit as it can be, it can also be isolating. Everybody's got, those ranching backgrounds or farming backgrounds. And a lot of times you just get so hung up in the day-to-day grind that it does become isolating. So to be able to go and listen and just feel a connection, I think even if you don't know someone personally, I think that there's some great power in that.
Yeah. I think too, social media nowadays is good and bad. And I think a lot of times people see success and they just think like this, like all these great parts of it. But it's like there's a lot of it in the back end or the getting to that part of their success that was probably not pretty, was probably not great. And I hate to see other people discouraged because they are feeling or going through these hard times. And they're like, man, I'm not going to be successful. I can't make it in the industry because I'm having these struggles that somebody else wasn't. And it's like, no, that's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
That is my goal and mission of the podcast is like, it's not going to be easy to get there, but that doesn't mean you can't do it at the end of the day.
I agree with you. And I think the other thing to acknowledge is that everybody's journey looks different, but they all kind of start somewhere similar in not knowing, or not having a direction, or, it's a hope and a wish and it's a dream, right? We all start with the dreams, just even like our podcast. I feel like we all started with a dream and a direction, but have I don't have anything to measure it against right now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's some podcasters that have taken off and just, risen to the top really fast and had some tremendous amounts of success. I have no idea what that's going to look like. And, when you go back to the nod to that, we were talking earlier about the horse training side of things, and that's, our reality in our life. And I don't know that there's any path, anything that's laid out exactly saying, okay, in 2 years you're going to be here, or by 5 years you should be at this destination. Everybody's journey looks very, very different in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to kind of have a very hard realization the other day for myself, even, is who we're becoming along the way is way more important than where we're going. Because I look back, I'm, going through some very big changes. I put my horse sales platform up for sale. That was like, that is my steady, like I worked 5 years, that's my, I don't know, comfort or whatever. That's my reliable. And I was like, nope, like we're going to do this, because the person that I am now and like ready to pursue something different was much different than the person that started. I always say like my life started over at 26. Like that girl there is not the woman that I am today. And as hard as the hardest times were, I'm so thankful. Like I can look in the mirror and like love who I am today, when that was not the case 5 or 6 years ago. And so that is something truly incredible to remember too, is like God's building us on this journey to who he wants us to be. It's not necessarily who has the biggest company or who is winning the most horse shows or most whatever. It's who you are at the end of the day.
I think you're absolutely right. It's funny you talk about rebuilding yourself at, at the age you did. I mean, I was almost 40 when I got stopped in my tracks and had to rebuild and started from the ground up. And God put the right people in the right place at the right time in my life to help that whole process of rebuilding. And I'm still rebuilding. I'm still working. I will always be a work in progress. And I think that when you become a follower of Jesus, that's just it. You are always going to be refined. He's the master potter, and I don't know that we ever become a finished product. He's still continually going to reshape us and mold us. And I think that to be successful in any industry, you have to be open and be obedient to that. That just has to be the expectation. Because in my past life, I kept thinking there's a certain destination I have to arrive at. And I would put my hopes and my dreams and my goals. And I've always been a hustler my whole life. And I was always hustling for a certain destination, but I never got there. I could never get to it. I never arrived. It just felt elusive. And I think that finally when I slowed down and I realized that's not, the destination is not the most important thing. It's the journey along the way and who you're becoming. And I can totally relate to you in that. In this whole phase where I'm at, I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, honestly, I would like to try. It's one of those fake it till you make it things. And at the same time, I will honestly admit, there are times I sit and reflect and I'm like, am I an imposter? Am I pretending to be somebody that I'm not? And I just have to tell the devil to get behind me in that regard, because that's not true. I'm not an imposter. I really believe with my whole heart, God put this on my heart and has put me down this path. And I'm going to be obedient to the calling, and I can't question it. I may question a few things here along the way of how do I get there, but it's not a question of I shouldn't be doing this. It's okay, what's next? Do I need to look at this different? And so then, you just spend time in prayer and wait for that direction. I think that's the hardest thing in this season of life, is the waiting.
Yeah. We did, I didn't get to attend most of Art of the Cowgirl because we had to run up to Wyoming and get my brood mares. That poor girl is as white as she is tall. That poor lady. Like, anyway, but I did get to, this was just another, like, there's always a plan. There's always a purpose. Like, nothing is just like coincidence. There was a gal that had a sale, or a horse in the Art of the Cowgirl sale. She was staying here at the camp that I live at, and like came in from Texas, or I got to chit chat with her. Well, she did this Cowgirls for Christ little meetup one morning at Art of the Cowgirl before everything started. And like, it was very much a whim for her. Like, she said she was driving from Texas to Wickenburg and had it like came to her mind, whatever, first time. It was really cool because it was very like not structured, but it was so authentic and like so real. But one of the gals brought up a phenomenal point, and she said, I read my Bible, I pray, I ask God for these signs, but she's like, I finally had to realize like I never take time to listen or to pay attention to those signs. It's like I'm always in the hustle and bustle of it, and I'm always trying to work so hard for what he says, but I never take time to like actually be quiet, be still, or like acknowledge even the little tiny things that he is showing. Like, hey, like I keep putting one person at a time in your path, or like I keep changing one little tiny thing that's actually putting you back on the path you're meant to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so accurate, especially in like today's age. Like we're, trying to be hustlers and this and that. And I mean, just to make it, you kind of have to be a hustler, but that's so easy to get lost in.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I had a dream here just a couple nights ago, and I won't get into the details of it because it'll make me emotional all over again. But sometimes I believe that God can speak to you through your dreams. And I woke up and I'm sitting there going, okay, what was that all about? Because it kind of felt like a nightmare, and maybe it was, but at the end of it, I found some peace because the whole thing was about being with some people and being in a place that I knew in the dream I shouldn't be there. Like I just kept saying, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. What is happening? And some things that have been important to me, loved ones, were in the dream. They were disappearing, and I was losing them. And I woke up and I was like, okay. And it goes back to some realness that I've been facing in life. And I talk about friendship. There have been some friends that just for no known reason, you just drift apart after a while, but they're not there anymore. Or they're there, but they're not in the same capacity. And I woke up from that dream, and that was the message I felt from the dream was I had to remove them because you were headed down a path you shouldn't be down. And I needed you to do this so they're not a part of this journey. And I was like, okay. And it just hit hard because I've still been mourning the loss of some friendships that I didn't understand. I don't know what happened or, anything like that. But then it dawned on me, I'm going a different direction, and I still care about them deeply, but they're not meant to be on this part of the journey with me. And so, yeah. Total segue to go into, sorry.
I referred to it as my shedding season because I went through a huge thing like that at the beginning of 2025. I, like 5 years after my divorce, I was like, did everything alone, whatever. I had a drinking problem. Like I can acknowledge that now. Like, and I decided to quit drinking, and everyone's like, oh, things happen so fast. And it did. Like on New Year's Eve, as I was puking my guts out in the freaking freezing cold. And I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why do I do this to myself? Like, and I'm like, I'm going to quit drinking. And a month later, I met my husband, and like all these good things happened like so fast. And something that made me so sad was like the people that like I thought were in my circle that didn't want to celebrate that. Like they were almost like bummed that I no longer had ridiculous dating failure stories to come tell them, or I didn't want to go out and like get belligerent in town, and like it was like, wow, like that was hard realizing that. And I still like go through that. And I mean, like I'm like, me and my husband, like we'll have a drink if we go out to dinner, or like if that's what you want to do, like that's fine. But for me, like for my health, mentally, physically, all of it, it wasn't doing me any good. But it is hard when you it is almost like you're leveling up, but there is like a version of you that you have to be okay leaving behind. And it's like, man, it's not always easy, because that version of you could have served you in so many ways. And the people that you've met, like you said, it's not like you wish them ill by any means, but it's just like the next level is going to require a different version of you.
It does. You're absolutely right. And that's part of that growth. And, the potter's hands are continually refining us. the realization didn't come until just the last couple of weeks, but I think things have gotten so much more real to me, and I just like I can't get out of my Bible very long. I just like I have this desire to just keep learning. As a teacher myself, as an educator, one thing that I always want to do is learn. Like there's never this place, like I said, that you arrive at, and I'm like, okay, I need to know more about that. I need to know more about how that happened, or just other stories that you hear along the way in the Bible. And so I've just been this desire that I can't explain and I can't shake it. And then it dawned on me, and I'm like, there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that knew us in that life, and they're going to call us hypocrites, and they're going to call us frauds. They're going to call us these things that we no longer are. Like you said, we shed that version of ourselves. And I'm okay. This is the last couple of weeks. I got to the point where I'm like, I don't care. I am okay moving on to this new place and this new version of me that I don't care. There's nothing anybody can say that's going to make me question that I'm loved, and I'm loved unconditionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is weird though, even when you see like, this is what I want, this is what pulls on my heart, like that little piece that is always, I saw something that was like, and I'm probably going to butcher it, like re-quoting it, but it was along the lines of like, yes, I walked through and shut that door, but like, and I don't want to go back there, but as a human, like I do look back at it and get kind of sad sometimes. And it's so true, because it's like, man, like there are times and moments and, things that I'm like, oh, like that was really fun, or, that like that served its purpose. And we are human. So even though it's like, yeah, we're going where we're called, but sometimes we are going to look back, and it is hard to be like, oh, like not get a little sad or whatever emotion comes up.
Right. I think there's parts that you absolutely will mourn along the way, and that's okay. And then you can look back and see this version of you and the growth that you've experienced along the way. And I think that we all need to make sure we give ourselves grace in that regard. There's a tremendous amount of growth that you can have when you put in the time and the effort. And I will tell you, I want to be better today than I was yesterday, and I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. And as a mom, I will tell you, even as a wife, there's things I fight in my head in that regard every single day. I'm like, I had a conversation on Friday with a dear friend. We had coffee, and I called her yesterday to apologize because I felt like I didn't show up on Friday in that space that she needed me to. She never thought about it, but it was something I was beating myself up. I was like, man, I've got to do better. I want to be a better listener, and I want to be slower to respond, So I think along the way, we're always grinding and hustling to be a better version than we were before. And there's beauty in that growth, and we've got to give ourselves the grace to let that be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole listener thing, I think the podcast made me a better listener, because I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I was quick to react. In my unhinged phase of life, I was always like ready to, no, that's not right, or like, oh, you want to bet? Like now I'm like, cool beans, dude.
I can relate. I can relate. My husband will tell you, I have been quick to get my panties in a wad and get upset about something, when at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with my own success in life. It has nothing to do with the peace inside of my own home. So why bring it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why react? And one thing, I agree, the podcast has taught me to just slow down and listen. And also to learn it's okay to be in the quiet space. Mm-hmm. You don't always have to fill the room with your voice just because you feel or you think there's a void.
Yeah. Yes. I was actually listening to like, I've been like listening to like how to be better, like speaker or host or whatever, some of my early episodes, I'm like, Crystal, quit saying, like, shh, quit saying that. But I was like so nervous. Like, and now I turned it into something else. I say, I think a lot. And anyway, that's just who I am. But I was listening to this audio book on how to be a better speaker. And one of the things they said was like, oftentimes if you like let there be a pause, the person who was talking has more to say. And that's been so true and so powerful too. Like, yeah, we're going to have like a little pause, but they usually are going to be more comfortable continuing on what they have to say.
Oh, I agree. I like that. And if you think about it, when you're hosting a podcast with guests, you want them to do most of the talking because you've invited them to share their stories, right? So you need them. They're the content, not you. Otherwise, you might as well just do a solo podcast and listen to yourself talk. And I don't want to listen to myself talk that long.
I listen to my head all day long. I do not need to listen to myself on repeat on the audio somewhere.
That's so true. So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Sometimes when we get in our heads, we can become our own worst enemies.
Oh my gosh. I always had this big saying when I was building the horse sales. Because like I was such a different person there. Like I felt like I needed to prove myself constantly. And I always would say like to like people criticizing or whatever, critiquing what I was doing, I was like, I promise you, whatever you have to say or whatever you think about my business, I already think 10 times worse about it or myself. Like I am my biggest critic. I promise you that. I've already thought of everything 10 times over for you to come up with that one thought about me. Like that was something I had to overcome because I was so bad about that.
Well, I even read something, I can't even think now. It was in a devotion it was either yesterday or the morning before about speaking nice and speaking blessings, and that goes beyond speaking it into others. It means speaking it into yourself too. And saying those nice things. I'm like you. I am my own worst critic. My dad used to tell me when I was a teenager in high school, he would discipline me, and then like the last couple of years of high school, it just kind of went away. Like I don't remember the last spanking, it kind of went away. And he told me, he goes, I just didn't have to worry because I knew you were going to have yourself beat up so much worse than I could ever do. So I didn't worry about it. And it's so true because I still to this day do it, at my age. And I will. Well, like the example, with my friend, she was sharing something very, very close and intimate to me. And instead of just letting there be that quiet space, instead of just letting it be what it was and letting the tears stream, I thought I had to say something. And so I did, and I responded. And then yesterday I was reflecting and beating myself up, and I'm like, man, she didn't need me to show up like that. She needed me to just, and I play the 100 scenarios through my head. And so I wasted so much time worrying about it and had so much inner strife in myself. And I called her last night. I was like, I cannot go to bed until I get this off my chest. And I need to apologize to you. And she goes, I didn't think anything of it. She said, you showed up exactly where you needed to be. And so I made this monster out of nothing, Yeah, that was a whole thing. But it's easy to do, I think, when you're your own worst critic.
Yeah. And I think women are worse about it than men. Because I'll like say something to my husband and he's like, what? Like, yeah. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, never mind.
Right? Yes. Sometimes I'm envious of the guy brain.
I can't remember. I had a guest on. We were talking about like mental toughness and coaching. I can't remember the word that she used, but it was like women's brains are so much different. Like men can like put this in a box and set it aside and go open another box, and women have all the boxes open at one time and we're trying to sort all of them. This isn't just a podcast. It's a platform for genuine, heartful, hustling horse people. Horses, Hope, and Hustle is about real people, real stories, the faith and grit behind this lifestyle. I'm opening the door to select partnerships with businesses and individuals whose missions align with this community. Around here, brands become part of the story, not just an ad. If you believe in what we're building, let's talk. I guess we have our own superpowers.
I think we do. I very much think we do. And there's that nurturing, side of the female that I think we get to bring into, and that goes back to like the reason for the podcast, at least on my side. Um, I think those stories are so powerful and, should be shared, and there's connection. That's that nurturing side of me that comes out in that regard. I've always been a storyteller, and I about a year and a half ago, I had a short gig where I got to write for a publication, and I absolutely loved it. And they kept telling me your writing is so different, because I didn't write like a reporter. I didn't have that kind of formal training. Um, but I loved to tell the stories. And so I would go out and find the stories to be told. And it had always been a dream of mine to have a podcast and tell stories. And I thought, well, man, if I can't do it now, I'll just go ahead and do this. This is my outlet. Maybe this is the direction I'm supposed to go. And then that came to an end, and I still had this desire to continue to share and find those stories, go seek them out and tell them. And so that's when the podcast journey began and actually came. And I got to backtrack that because, oh gosh, I feel like it was 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was over spring break, and my husband and I were traveling to Oklahoma, and I was just adamant I was going to go ahead and I was going to start a blog. So I went out, got a subscription to the site, started building a blog. I wrote a couple stories and never posted them to the blog. I never did anything with it. I paid that stupid subscription for a year and did nothing with it. And I was like, this is dumb. So finally, I was like, that's never going to happen. I thought the Western Grace ship had sailed. I thought, well, that desire is gone. It's never going to happen. Again, I went back to the whole voices inside your head thing and just considered, I'm not worthy of that. That's not for me. And just kept fighting it. And then I got to go write, which was cool. And as I was writing, then the podcast thing started to kind of build back up again in my heart and started to kind of form in my head. And then last year in March, went ahead and bought the subscription to the platform that I use and started playing around with it, recorded a solo one. It was on the heels of the World Show, and I had made the top 10 there. My very first time, my first NRCHA, World Show, and I was so excited, and it was so emotional for me. So I went ahead and took the leap, and I recorded that whole journey solo, all by myself. And I never did release it. Maybe someday I will, but I couldn't be that vulnerable yet. But then I decided, well, maybe my podcast isn't supposed to just be me solo. It's supposed to be the interviews and that. So then I kind of sat on it for a while, and I just kept thinking, and I made this list. I have got a long list of people to interview. And a friend of mine, she finally pushed me off the ledge this fall, and she said, I am so tired of you talking about your podcast. You need to just get off your duff and get it done. And she handed me a name and a phone number, and she said, they need to be your first guests. And so I did. I reached out within 3 days of her giving me that. And the very next week, we scheduled an episode and we recorded, and the rest has been history. And it's been so much fun. And I'm sure I'll look back like you probably do. I'll look back someday and I will just be like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Because I still don't know what I'm doing. But I'm going to get better. I promise I'm going to work at it.
It is hard I went through a lot of those same struggles because it was probably 2 years on my heart to do a podcast. And I was not in a good place myself. But I was like, nobody wants to listen to me talk, and my goal was never to have a complete solo podcast. But I was like, I'm not worthy enough or accredited enough. Like, I'm not enough to start this and have this, people aren't going to want to listen. And that was probably my biggest battle. And also to like be vulnerable. Like I had shared some parts of my story, and people like one-on-one, you know, yeah, like I would open up to people and tell them, you know, but like putting it out on the internet or like, that's a lot. There are people that I never would have imagined listen to my podcast. Like so much of my husband's family, they're like, I listen to your podcast. And I'm like, oh, I hope that's good. Like I don't, so starting that, it was a big leap of faith because you do go through this whole, but that has been the most rewarding thing is the people that have reached out and been like, what you're posting is so relatable and so genuine. And I'm like, well, good. I'm glad because it was a whole battle with myself to get here.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. I can sympathize with that. And I've had a couple people that have done the same. You know, of course, my journey is a lot younger than yours is in this whole regard, but I've had a few people reach out and they were thankful that I shared those stories. And then they shared their connection to the story. And I think that's the most powerful thing for me reflecting is the actual connection that people are getting. And then I'm like, that's it. That's the why. That's why I do this. That's why. And this is not me. I mean, I wasn't sitting here thinking, what can I do? What can I do? I mean, it was one of those, obviously not an audible nudge, but the Holy Spirit speaking to my heart and that this is where you should go. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories and they all just kind of like converge into the same place. And then that's when I'm like, okay, I know this is led by someone else other than me. You talk about your own testimony, and mine is one of those that, again, I'm probably not going to put it out there on the internet, but it's created the lane or the road that I've gone down. You know, there's a reason why I'm working where I'm at and working on me and made some of the choices that I have in the last few years. And I feel like the desire, I don't have a desire to talk about it publicly, but I have a desire to share the testimony with the right people. Like there's a certain audience I think that it's meant for. I have no idea who. I know when they come to me that, you know, I can share little nuggets of my journey and help them along the way and let them know they're not alone. And when I was in the bottom, I say the pits, I mean, the valleys, the darkest places, I would pull out books and I would read, you know, and I read somebody's autobiography, and it's the one thing that I sat there and I felt like somebody saw me. Somebody saw me through that book right where I was sitting. And I was broken. And so was that person when they were telling their story. And so it was relatable. And then, you know, when you read a book, there's always the ending is always better than the middle of the climax of the story. And so when I got to read how she came out of it, I was like, okay, I can claw my way out, and I'm going to, you know, come hell or high water, I'm digging out. And I feel like our job, you know, I don't mean to speak for you, but I feel like our job in this role that we play as a host in our mission, we collectively kind of are on the same trajectory here, is to share those stories of people clawing their way out, because somewhere somebody needs to hear that. And that's the power of the platform, is it's got the capabilities to reach so much farther than our human minds can even imagine. And there's going to be you sharing your story and you being willing to do that. I will tell you already, there are people that are moved by it. You know, you and I got to visit a little bit off the phone last week, and there were some things that were parallels, and I just kept thinking, wow, I feel like I'm just, I don't know, 20 years ahead of you, and I see a lot of things, and I'm like, man, you are gonna help people. And at the end of the day, the bottom line, that's all I want to do. And I don't mean me personally, but by the grace of God, I just want people to get the help that they need. And so having the guests that we have lined up on our podcast, they're going to help people get the help that they need.
Yeah. when I was at like my absolute bottom, like I didn't really see the point in continuing to live bottom. I can't tell you the one thing that would like gave me enough strength. I know there was something, and probably it was, a godsend, but that was always my thing and my purpose of sharing was it was like if one person reads this and chooses to just make it to tomorrow, then like that's all I'm doing it for.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's incredible how much strength is in community, even just knowing that you're not alone in it. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much power in it, and that's all that I hope for, with this podcast too. Like, yeah, it's obviously it's great when people listen and the message is spreading, but at the end of the day, it's about helping one person if we can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like a ripple effect if you can help one person or my faith is very strong, and like I do read the Bible, but like we go to church at Rancho Rio down here in Wickenburg, but like structured religion, I guess, was never really like I don't consider myself. I don't even know how to explain it. I have a huge faith. I believe in God, like, and I will share that. And I know talking to some of my friends about it, like I'm like, yeah, like I read the Bible, especially when like things were really hard. Like I didn't understand most of it, but like the things I needed to hear like made sense. And something that I heard a long time ago was you might be like the word you share might be the only like piece of the Bible that people experience. And there's so
Mm-hmm.
much power in that too, is even if you said one line that resonated with somebody, then maybe they'll go and share their story or they'll do something, they'll help someone. And that's like as human as people. And I mean, I don't know what bigger purpose we have in life other than, helping those around us, even when we don't realize it.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think that we, as believers, we're all tasked with sharing, right? It's called
Mm-hmm.
discipleship, and we are to share. What good is it if you keep all that knowledge to yourself?
Yeah.
It's just not, and you can't do anything with it if you're the only one that knows it.
Mm-hmm.
There's power in creating and sharing that knowledge and making that community that you're talking about. And I think that then it grows like wildfire, and then we're all on the same side and we are all wanting better. We don't want to go political, but the more we all know and the more we share and the more we're excited about it, the better the world around us becomes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where then you talk about mental health, and we've got the power to share that message and help people, really
Mm-hmm.
help people. I mean, I
Yeah.
will tell you, I, like you, was in some dark places where I didn't think that I needed to see the next day. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And sometimes you think it's hard to talk about and people don't want to talk about it because it's such a shameful thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you get to a point where you just think the world's going to be better off without you. But I will promise you, on this side of it, and so grateful that I had enough family members praying for me and, been blessed in that regard that I am here today. I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a beautiful little boy and I have a sweet daughter that I get to love on. And I can't imagine my life without them. I can't imagine their life without me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that goes back to the whole who you're becoming thing. To look back, I know I get so sad for like that version of me just because I'm like, man, like, but also like so grateful that it's one of those things, like I went from that to like over independent, like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need anyone. But then like that took me to the next level. And um, in church the other day, our pastor was talking about suffering and like God's plan for our suffering, because I know sometimes that's hard to be like, oh my gosh, like this person went through horrible things. How do they still have faith?
Mm-hmm.
And his message was just so relatable because it was like he's usually using that or that suffering to like mold us or whatever. And I think
Mm-hmm.
about that now, I'm like, it was a very, very hard, even like everything that led up to, everything that led up to my life at 26 was just, you know leading to that moment. But everything from then, those 5 years of hardships, I would not be who I am without it. And I had to work through that. And once you get to that point, it's like, wow, like, good job. Like, I just want to go pat her on the back and be like, good job to keep going. Like, so proud of you, because it did get so much better than we ever could have imagined. And I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, it feels like since I really started like diving into the podcast and like making these changes in my life, it's like God just keeps like putting one footstone in the path for me. Like, one person comes into my life, and then like I'm like sitting here wondering like, okay, how am I going to do this? And then like one person comes in, even like talking to you the other day, the things that we were talking about on the phone, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and then like another person comes in, and it's like, holy cow, like, could this get any better? And then one more, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, this has been truly incredible. And I'm just like so thankful wherever that little ounce of whatever came from that it did, because it got way better than I ever could have imagined.
Right. Well, and it's just iron sharpens iron. I'm a firm believer of it. And, you and I got a chance to visit about it at length. And not just does iron sharpen iron, but let's talk about this space for a minute that we're in, because it'd be real easy. For anybody, I think, and, in a past part of my life, when I wasn't walking where I'm at now, to be jealous of somebody who's doing something I want to do. And now I look at it, and that's where, it's crazy. How did you and I come together for this collaboration? Because I heard your podcast. We have a mutual friend, and I heard her interview with you, and I was like, I want to talk to her. And I mean, you want to talk about being vulnerable. I just messaged you on your page and was like, hey, would you want to do an interview sometime? And that's a space that I've grown and gotten bolder in, when you reach out to people you really don't know. And I just thought, man, I feel like there's some like-mindedness, and it would be really intriguing to just pull together and talk,
Yeah.
And I don't remember where I was going with that, but yeah, it just segued. So, we being able to get together and talk, I think that's where I was going. That's where there is room in this space for everybody. I feel like when you're doing the right thing and you're sharing the right messages and you're creating inspiration and hope, we're not creating it. Somebody else creates that, right? But we're just facilitating those conversations. There is so much room in this space. And so rather than hearing your podcast, and I just kept thinking, man, there are so many parallels. I thought it was cool that somebody else was doing something similar. And so I wanted to know how you've done it. How did you get there? And you've recorded how many episodes now? And when did you start? I just wanted to pick your brain about everything. As an entrepreneur, I think that's the one thing that will launch us on the path to success is never stop learning and never stop asking how.
Well, even when you are friends with people in the same industry, the thing is like, you're going to have a different view or a different perspective. You're going to have different ways. One of my really close peers, she also owns a horse sale platform in Colorado. And I love that relationship with her because there's no judgment. There's no comparison. There's no nothing. Like, I can come to her and be like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling so hard at this. And we built our businesses from like a completely different way. But at the end of the day, we both found success within it. And so it's the same in the podcast and even like showing horses. You're going to train your horse a different way than I did. And at the end of the day, it's whoever had the best day that's going to win the class. And I think so much of that in all things that we do, like being able to come together and helping each other rather than comparing is huge.
I agree. Absolutely agree. 100%. So like, I'm on your team all the way. And any way I can support you, I'm here. I'm not near as knowledgeable. I might have a little bit more worldly knowledge just because I've been alive longer than you, but like, I don't know anything. But I'm your hype girl.
Well, thank you. I laugh when you said something like, I don't I don't know all this stuff about the podcasting. Like when I my equipment and stuff, bare minimum. When people, the first like live interview, like I had somebody come over to my house. We're doing it in the kitchen. I have like lamps. I like took the shades off lamps and like set them by my camera. And I have like, oh my gosh, like I had like I stole an extension cord from my husband. It was like 100 foot long. So there's just a pile of extension cords sitting in the kitchen because I needed like this much more. And like it's not all, yeah, we're just winging it. We're just full send.
Just
And
winging it.
the other thing I do think that makes it relatable is it is very, like I was telling you, all the ridiculous things that have happened on my podcast. Like I don't wear pants, or like I had egg yolk in my hair, or like stupid camera stopped working. Like there's just things all the time. I say things I definitely shouldn't. Thankfully, the lady who edits mine is really good at, like, I was a little too unhinged. Like, thank you for that.
I get that. I've gotten better about that. Well, and you talk about the ums and the uhs in the recording. This goes back to my early college years when I was on the livestock judging team at Casper College, and Kelly Birch was my coach, and we didn't say or like that man corrected from the day we all showed up in class. He was constantly correcting our mannerisms, like everything. You don't say yeah, you don't say nah, you say yes, and you say no, and you bite those words off. And it's so funny because those little nuances have just, like, throughout my whole life, I've just carried on. And I even teach them to my own children. And instead of saying gotcha, I tell my son, you mean yes, ma'am. Like it's, it's so funny how that you move those things throughout life. But it's one of those, I've not really ever been a person to say or I may slow my word down and drag it out because I'm still thinking about what to say next, but I don't say or And I think that goes back to the oral reasons room. You had to be really quick giving reasons, and you got to think things. I never could really script it down and memorize what I said. We were all taught, especially in college, they teach you the buzzwords. And when we would do our sheets, we would make our little grids, and in each box we'd put those buzzwords we were going to talk about. We might put in a transition phrase, but nothing was ever scripted. And I think that's what's led to me having the success when you put a microphone in my hand, because I've just been trained not to go down those roads of the ums and the uhs and the things. And I am grateful for that. That goes back, sorry, I'm going to go off on another tangent, back to livestock judging. When everybody left college, there's a bunch of my peers from my team. They went off to judge huge livestock shows. I did not. I felt like I kind of was a failure. I took a whole nother path after college. I judged a few horse shows outside of college. I was really grateful for my coach giving me some of those connections. And that was my passion anyway. I grew up high school rodeoing and judged horses in high school. And that was where my path led. And I look back now and I'm actually really grateful for all those years doing that, because it's given me the ability to feel comfortable with a microphone in hand and a platform. I get into a group or a room of people and I'm not afraid to stand up and talk. I'm just not. It's give me a topic and I'll figure it out. I'm just that kind of person. I'll figure it out. I have to laugh because Garrett Henry at the 88 Ranch has been super instrumental in helping, maybe not so much on the podcast side, but just helping me launch a career in what I get to do on the side. And I was doing an interview with him and I had a microphone clipped to the side of my shirt and I had my hair down like this and we're sitting in chairs. He's got his little microphone on and I'm interviewing him for their horse sale. And then it got put live out on Facebook by their media specialist. And I was listening to it and I'm going to be the only one that would pick up on it. But I kept hearing something, and I'm one of those that as people are saying and I'm agreeing, and I nod along, and I'm nodding. And then I'd look at the camera and then I'd look back at Garrett and I could hear something. Well, we were in his house and I couldn't figure out the sound. And it dawned on me, my hair was rubbing on the microphone. And so every time I would nod my head against the microphone, it made this like scratchy sound. And Lisa, she said, nobody has a clue. Nobody can hear it but you. You're the only one.
Yeah.
Well, it was annoying me and I could, hear it. So you just go back to the beginnings when you you do things and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Now I know that when I wear a microphone, my hair is going to be out of my way and it's not going to rub on it. I'm not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's funny. That's funny. I did public speaking in FFA all through high school and horse judging for 4-H and FFA.
yeah.
And so I never really, I had put the public speaking together because I know so many people are like, oh my gosh, when you put a camera in front of your face, I'm like, well, in high school, they traumatized me. I public spoke in front of a lot of people and you just pretend like there's
Yeah.
nobody in the room. And
Yes.
sometimes I think I got so good at it, I don't realize like when people do come up to me and like, I watch your podcast. I'm like, what? Like I was just talking to a camera set up in front of me. Like you don't think about all the people that are really going to hear it when you put it on the internet.
Mhm.
But public speaking in high school helped me be like that. Like, in a room full of people, I just like looked over the top of their heads. I didn't
Right.
make eye contact with anyone.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And isn't it funny how, because I was in FFA and 4-H too. My dad was my high school FFA advisor. Fun fact. That came with a whole nother set of pressures. Um, but it's funny how you look back now and you're like, man, I'm really, really grateful for the times I didn't want to go to the contest. The time that my dad threw me on the horse judging team at the Nevada State FFA convention and I was not ready for it. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And he said, it's okay. You're on the livestock judging team. You'll be fine. I had no clue what to do, but we owned
Yeah.
horses. I knew what good ones look like, but now I had to figure out how to talk about them in the reasons room. And it's different than livestock judging reasons. So but it made me have to think on the fly. And then I had to draw within and find that confidence in. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't real confident, but I came out of there in the top 5 in the state. Like I look back now and I'm like, thank you, Dad. Thank you for putting me in situations I didn't want to be in, because it's paid dividends later in life.
Yeah. Back to the whole who you're becoming along the way. Starts long before we realize it.
It does. And we just don't realize how those pieces are orchestrated together. I never dreamt I would be in a space like this. I wanted to work for myself for a long time. Talking about entrepreneurship, I have always had an entrepreneur spirit, but I'd never worked for myself before. And working for myself has allowed me now to do the podcast. I sell real estate full time now. That's what I do. I left education at the end of last year because I just was ready to do something different. I wanted control of my own schedule. I'm a hard worker, so I had no doubt, that I'll make it work. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still winging life out. But my husband, as a horse trainer and going and doing things, when he would go to a show, I'd have to stay home because I can't hire a sub to come in my classroom for 10 days. That's a lot of planning, and I don't have the time to do that. And so I needed something different, and that's what led me down that path. Was I was ready to go work for myself. My little brother, I'm always amazed at him. That guy, I say kid, but he's a guy, grown man. He has worked for himself for so long, almost nearly his entire adult life. I think he was in his early 20s when he started his first business, and he's in the reclamation and trucking business there in Nevada and Idaho. But he had 3 different businesses and they failed before the last one finally took off. But he was not willing to throw in the towel and quit. Like he just stuck out the grind. And in my eyes, he's extremely successful. And now my dad works with him, and a little bit envious of what they had and what they were doing. Man, I really, really wanted to do it myself. Obviously not in the same industry. But I kept thinking, man, if they can do it, if he can try and fail that many times and still pick himself up and still keep going, why can't I do that too? And so I finally did last year. I had the support of my husband and threw in the towel on teaching. It was time. I needed to leave before I became that old grouchy teacher that nobody wanted, and I left. And I'm glad I did, because it freed up. I had no idea when I left teaching to go into real estate full time. I had no idea that this podcast would be started this last fall like it did. And the space that it's opened up, I'm just so excited. I have no idea where we're going to go next,
Yeah. That's phenomenal. Entrepreneurship it's not easy.
No, it's not for the faint of heart. And you're going to fail more times than not.
Absolutely. Yes.
But it just takes that one time, right? That one transaction or that one relationship that you make along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the other doors that have been opened for you.
Yeah. For me, I actually just recently kind of came public with it, like selling the business, and maybe by the time this is out, it'll be sold. Who knows? But that was something that I battled for a long time because I started this business when I wasn't at the best point in my life. And I mean, I poured my heart and soul into it. And it has become successful. And there's been tons of moments where I'm like, man, this sale didn't go as good as I wanted. And I was so hard on myself and I thought it was a fail. And the people that were like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome. Like, good job. And I'm like, what? What? So entrepreneurship has definitely shaped me a lot. And you do have to be okay to fail and like brave enough to start again. And that was something I battled actually for months. I really wanted to pursue the podcast. I didn't have the time and energy. I have some other opportunities that have been coming up, and my plate's so full that everything I do for myself, like writing and like, even like my physical health, all of that got put on the back burner. And I was like, okay, I already don't have time for me. And so like pursuing these other things, like something has to go. And I battled for months before I finally like came out and was like open, like I'm putting it out there that I wanted to sell into the one business because it like became my identity too, in not a good way. Like my husband has to constantly remind me like, this is what you do. It's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because I would take those fails or those like no sales so personal, like it was embarrassing now. I mean, like, again, back to the biggest critic, like I'm, if I upset, if I just so many things. And it was like, no. And now it's just, since I have like been open and like came out and put it out there, like, hey, I want to sell to move out. I thought I wasn't sure how that was going to go too, like putting it out in the public. Cause I did end up just posting it on my personal Facebook page. Like, hey, look, I want to sell out of this. Like, this is very successful business. Like, it's established, it's whatever. And I had people calling me like that whole day, still messaging. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't realize, like, I didn't realize it would be this, big and popular. And so now it's been cool because now that I'm like open about it, it was just another stepping stone. Like, again, it was like, okay, yeah, like this is what you're going to do. But I think sometime in entrepreneurship, like people think of quitting and it's like, no, you're not like quitting because something failed or like having to decide that moment of like, okay, like I do need to throw in the towel so I can invest in something bigger or like I need to keep pushing. And I think when you sit with it and you make the decision, like only you know what's the right decision, but there can be so much pressure with it when it comes to the entrepreneurship side of it.
I think you're absolutely right. And so many people, I mean, I can just admit I'm just as guilty. Everybody would dream of overnight success, but that's not how it works, especially in the real estate business. I feel like I'm extremely connected across our whole state. All of the roles that I've ever played and all the things I've ever done from the college to, teaching at the college level. And I've been in the oil field and I worked at the state fair. Like I've done so many different things. And so the fingers are out there everywhere, but not everybody is selling or buying real estate at the same time. So just because you have connections doesn't mean it's all going to happen all at once. And so although I don't think I went into it with a false hope, I had no idea how hard it was going to be to get started when I got started 6 months ago, 7, maybe it's been 8 months now. It's been a while now. I had no idea just how hard. I was really blessed and that some very close friends had came to me and were looking for some pasture ground. Within my first week, I had a buyer and we found them something. And so right away I had that, and that gave me that taste of, oh, I can do this. But then after that happened, Then things slowed down, and then we couldn't get closed on their loans right away because we had the government shutdown last fall. Like every time I turned around, I kept feeling like, okay, I'm being tested in so many ways. It would have been easy in the first 6 months to throw my hands in the air and quit. There was a time that I kept questioning, should I have left teaching? I mean, let's be honest, I had a really good salary and I had insurance. And when you've got a husband that does horse training for his profession, you need good insurance.
Yeah.
So, like I questioned, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? And I know I was called out of teaching. I know it because of the way the whole thing unfolded. And I know that I have to stick with it. I had to stick with it then. I have to stick with it now. And I mean, things are starting to happen and move. And I have been beyond blessed in the last 30, 60 days. And I have to remember that, this isn't by my own doing. There's somebody else orchestrating all this above. And if I will just turn over my life and just let God's will happen, it's going to happen, but it's not going to be on my time. I mean, not at all on my time. I wish it was, but it doesn't ever work that way. And I don't know how people can actually get through being a business owner and not having a faith. They do it all the time. They're all over the world. But for me, knowing now what I know, I wouldn't want it any other way. Because if I had to struggle, I'd rather struggle knowing that I know a really good God than struggle trying to figure it out on my own. Because I can't, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it without the having faith. I remember kind of early on, like sharing stories with my friends where it was like, I have a pile of bills and no money. Like, I don't even have money to eat. I don't have money to go buy groceries. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay these bills. And they were just like, their eyes got so big and they're like, why are you doing this? It's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like when you're called, he makes a way. And it always would work out. It always worked out. Like, it was like, okay, like then out of nowhere, a horse would sell or a sponsor would come along. Something would happen. Even not business related, people like, hey, Crystal, I need some horses hauled. Do you want to go do it this weekend? And it was like, oh, yes. So, something always worked out. But even in some of those moments, even having a big faith, it was still like, is this really gonna, like, how long are you gonna make me wait before it does pan out, dude?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Been down to the last $15 in your account and you're like, I don't know how I'm buying groceries this weekend. And inevitably something happens and the floodgates open every time. Every time. I have not been filled yet by God. Not at all. But it takes obedience and you just have to be willing to turn your life over. And especially in the profession I'm in now, we never know when the next deal's coming. We never, I mean, you don't know how far down the line. I had one come through a website through a back channel, didn't know me from Adam, got the listing, and within 10 days had an offer, and we're going to close real soon. Like, I had no control over that. None. I mean, obviously the control in the deal in the middle, I'm working, my human brain is working it, but I have no control over how that whole thing falls out. You just have to be willing to be obedient and let it go. And it goes back to the horse training side of it too. I firmly believe in that regard. You never know after every 90 days where the next ones are going to come from. My husband, he's in the 2-year-old game. And so he starts them and then sends them home and starts the next round and sends them home. We're very blessed to have 2 big outfits that believe in him, but there's still all those other odds and ends that come in. And those ones, we don't know when they're going to come from or where they're going to come from. And you just have to be willing to just trust the process and trust the timing. If you go out and try and rush it on your own, who knows how you're going to mess it up. I don't want to mess it up. I've messed up my whole life until I got to this point.
Yeah, it's not an easy task, but it is. I don't know. you have to have it, I guess, if you're have to have something. I don't know what everybody else has, but
Yep. And it's rewarding, right? Let's be honest in that regard. It's rewarding and it's humbling all at the same time. And I will tell you right now, I get people all the time that ask me, "Are you ready to go back to the classroom?" And my answer is just straight no. No. I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care. My answer is no. I know that I made the right move. I know that I'm following God's will and I'm headed the right direction. And I got to be open to whatever comes next, just like you with your horse sale. Once that sells, he's gonna channel something else to you. You just have to be willing to take that leap. I'm excited for you. I think it'll be a great opportunity for you to go do something else that's just going to grow you and grow in the industry. I think it's awesome.
thank you. I'm excited. I didn't originally have plans to start something new right away, but there's something pretty cool in the works. So we'll see what happens. I have been really lucky. I've gotten to know Donna Sidoris, that is the owner and founder of CSI Saddle Pads. Phenomenal lady. I love her so much. She actually spoke so much life into me that I don't even really think she realized. I went into her booth one day. I had one of her sponsored riders on, and he had brought her up, and I went into the booth. We went in to have her fit my stud horse to the saddle we ride him and get some pads. And I was like, yeah, like I actually own a podcast. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've listened to your podcast. Like, I know who you are. And I'm like, what? Like, she knows me? And like, I am like baffled, right? So anyway, I've like very blessed, like gotten to become pretty good friends with her. She has an episode that'll probably be out by the time this one comes out. But in her episode, we were talking, she just celebrated 25 years of business. And Donna has hustled to build what she has built. And I asked her, what would some, advice to give other people wanting to pursue entrepreneurship? And she said, it's hard. It is so hard. You got to be prepared for that. But she's like, but there will be little glimmers of hope or faith or like proof that what you're chasing is right or correct or worth it. And you have to hold on to those little glimmers for dear life, because sometimes, there's all these big things going on, and just those little tiny specks of hope or reward or whatever it is all that it takes you to keep pushing through to the next little glimpse of hope. And I thought that was so spot on. And then she's like, and then trust God that He, has planned. And I was like, like,
That is so true.
Like, man, that was incredible. Like, 25 years. She, yeah. I mean, I'm like, I've been self-employed since marketing. I can't think of the word right now, but like I did those, and then I started Big Sky Horse Sales in 2021, and so I've been self-employed for a long time. But like the Big Sky Horse Sales was the longest business. That's suspect. Uh-oh. Go. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know why I went black for a second.
Oh no. No, we're good.
That's what everything's for.
I look up to you guys in that regard, when it comes to owning your own business. That's my goal someday, is that I can create something that I'm proud of and something that will help sustain my family. My husband obviously owns his own business, and I want our kids, more than anything, someday I want our kids to look at us and I want them to learn something from it. I had both of my parents own their own businesses. My dad owned a feed store. My mom owned a sign business. My grandparents, they owned a construction company. So I come from a long line of lineage. My aunt, they own their own business. She owns a restaurant in Red Bluff, and they owned a trucking business for a long time. So it's in my genes. I knew it was, and I knew I wanted to do it. And I look back at all of those people in my life and their influence, and I watched how hard they worked, but I watched, more importantly, their character and how that shaped who they were. And I want our kids to see that someday. And I want our kids to learn from that. I think, obviously, if they go work for someone else, I want them to be the hardest worker in the room for that person. But I think that when you are self-employed, it comes with a different level of responsibility, and you show up to work different. And if anything, that's what someday I hope that they learn. It's not necessarily that they take over any business that we have, but that they learn those important characteristics and those life skills, because I think those skills are going to be what carries them through into whatever it is that they go do in their careers and professionally. So I think there's a huge responsibility that comes with, being self-employed and working for yourself, but it's very rewarding. I have no doubt about it. It's rewarding. And I know I'm just young in that journey. That's why I said I look up to the rest of you guys and your incredible stories. I can't wait to listen to that episode when it comes out with her, because I just think that would be incredible.
Yeah. It is. That's been my favorite part of this podcast, is the people that, like people like her, or I had Darren Stoner, the perfect babe. People that have been in business so long are so happy to take their time to talk about it with me. That's been just so neat to be like, man, like these people understand it. So it's not like they're like looking down on anybody that's starting their business, because they know what it's like. And that's so neat to me, is just the kind of person it takes to pursue entrepreneurship or to pursue anything outside of the norms of society is just so neat. And it's like, yes, do it. Go be your own person, whatever path that is for you, whatever that looks like for you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it comes with its own opportunities. It's a lifestyle. And I think, how many people look back to if they're working for somebody else and they resent their boss, or they resent a supervisor, or any of those things, because they've had such great success. And, my response is, then go find what you love and build a business and go do it. If you're miserable, go figure it out and go do it. I think that it's a choice to be miserable, and it's a choice to not be.
Yeah.
Your lane.
Yep. I agree. I don't know. Just keep I laugh when people like try to ask me like, what drives you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what drives me. Like, I just got this thing on my heart to go do it. And it's not annoying, but it's like there. And if I ignore it, it's just like so loud in my head. So I don't know. My brain's wired different. That's what I tell you.
It has to be wired different to do this. We have to be just a tick off, right?
Yes. So much so. It's crazy.
Yes. We just keep that in a box.
Yeah. Well, I think my crazy box is always a little open.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, goodness. Awesome. Oh my gosh. I feel like we covered so much stuff.
We did. We ran the full gamut.
Yeah, we did.
And there's more. Awesome. There's always more.
Oh, I know. That is one thing. I have to watch the clock, because I could once we get on something, I could ramble forever. I'm like, nobody wants to listen to me rambling 4 hours at a time. So
yeah. No, I think it's a gift when you are comfortable in a room with people to talk, or to give a speech, or to interview somebody. It's truly a gift. Not everybody's got that. And I see that gift in you. I saw it right away. When it was one of those things. I was like, I have got to talk to her. I just, you can recognize when you feel like someone's cut from the same cloth. And I saw that in you and I was inspired by it. So I'm just really grateful that I followed that little nudge and that prompting to just reach out. I've got to get better at that in a lot of ways. Normally I can walk into a room full of strangers and I am totally comfortable to go shake hands, but there's certain things I'm just not as bold yet to do. One of the things, my husband, I told him I've got a dream of having a certain individual as a guest on my podcast, but I'm like, I'm not worthy of asking that person because they're a pretty high profile. But I just know every time I listen to him, I am moved so much. And I mean, it's Casey Deary. I would die to have Casey Deary as a guest someday on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Just listening to his testimony, I am blown away every time. Then the other day, my husband, he said to me that I need to reach out to, there's another guy down there. I think he's in your area, but Brad Barkmeyer. He's like, I think you need to have Brad on your podcast. And one more time, I'm like, we're in the cow horse world with all these people. And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. He doesn't know me. We just talked to him the one time at the World Show. He doesn't know me, but maybe one of these days I'm going to get bold. I'm going to get brave, and I'm going to ask those individuals to come on and just share a little bit of their faith and their testimony, because again, it's relatable, right? And people, they want that. They're hungry for that content, that those stories that they know they're not alone. And those stories where they learn somebody started in the same place they're starting out.
Yeah. And honestly, I think a lot of those bigger names, however you want to put it, like they are happy to share with you too. I mean, like their schedules are probably very busy, but they are happy to sit with you and to get to talk. And I think too, the podcast industry itself is very neat because, and I'd heard this, I don't remember where I heard it, but people love to just get to listen to authentic because they can still go about their day. They don't have to sit and watch it on a screen if they don't want to. Like they can carry on, but they're getting to hear like the real and the raw and like storytelling and all of that we're not getting, maybe not getting all that one-on-one human interaction as much as we used to. And so I feel like the podcast industry itself is really such a neat thing that is just continuing to grow. I mean, I know I listen to podcasts all the time because, I'll turn them on and go clean stalls and feed and ride and all the things because I like that I can keep doing what I'm doing. I don't have to sit and watch. And yeah, we're big podcast people and it's really neat. And I think a lot of people, like Darren Stoner, I mean, they've been in business also. I think they're coming up, or they have been 24, 25 years. And, they're an older couple. So how they built was completely different from like me. And like he said, he's like, right now they're always shifting. He's like, right now we're trying to do more podcasts and more educational stuff and whatever. And so that's just kind of today's hub is this podcast stuff. And so I think a lot of people are pretty willing to make the time to be guests. So go ask.
Awesome. I will. Thing. I'm gonna get bold. Who are your dream guests?
Ooh. I hate to sound cheesy, but I really loved all of my guests. And then every time I record a new one, I'm like, oh, that was my favorite one. And then I recorded and that was my favorite one. So I have a list of people that I want to have on. But I don't know. I've had I had Dan Rozier on, Garth Gardner. He was awesome. Donna, those guys, they're so cool. But even people like Naomi, our I love Naomi. I love her to death. And it was so cool. I loved hers was one of the most popular episodes, but all the people that know her, so that's been my favorite is just getting, I don't even want to categorize them, but your everyday people in to share their story, because I feel like they're oftentimes just as powerful as, so I don't know. I did get my husband to be on, and that one was very, very special because my husband was born with one hand, and he is a welder by trade. He ropes both ends. In my opinion too, he is just my hero. He's the greatest human that I've ever known. And I finally got him, and he doesn't realize, like, he's always just like, I was born this way. Like, it's just life. Like, I can either not, like, use it as an excuse or just like do. So, like, in his mind is way different. And so that was probably one of my favorites too. Like, and it took a long time. We had to actually like get in a fight for me to get that man to do it. And then when we got done, he's like, I can't wait for my podcast to be out. This is going to be so cool. And told his cousin who listened to it, he's like, that's not the last you'll hear from me. I'm more than just a one-hit wonder, bud. I'm like, I'm going to punch you in the face. But that one was really cool. So I don't know. Like, I have a list. But it's also, I've also been very, whatever comes up. Like, I'm not, I keep telling the gal who edits my podcast, like, I promise I'm going to get like 5 episodes, like, in the reserve. Yeah, that's not happened. I think we've had 2 at one point. I usually, like, the week of that episode coming out, because I've just been really, like, open to whoever comes on, like, like, people reach out, or like, I have people that, they're like, hey, you should have so-and-so, or I meet someone down here. And so I don't know. I don't have like a dream at the moment. Usually when something comes up, I'm like, oh, like, I just had Morgan Holmes this morning. I talked to Morgan Holmes that just won the world's greatest cowgirl. Okay. And that was really cool. And so I don't know. I don't have like one dream guest. I'm just like, everybody's stories just keep intriguing me. So I don't know. Somebody will come on. I'm more of like a act before I think about things all the way through. So like, if something comes up, I'm like, oh, I gotta like ask that person. Like, so I'm big on that. And then I actually asked like Trisha Aldridge before the NFR. I asked her to be on it. She was actually down here. She couldn't do it, like, scheduling thing. But so yeah, I'm whatever comes up in the moment. That's how I roll.
It's kind of how I've been too. So I think it's an all right place to be, because then it does lend for, I think, authenticity. It's whatever's happening in the moment. So very cool.
Very
well, I'm super excited to just keep following you, and I can't wait to share you with all of my friends and my family.
Well, thank you. I think your podcast is going to take off too. I listened to your episodes, and you have a good thing started. So keep rolling.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
You are welcome. Well, remind people of your podcast name again.
Western Grace.
Go follow it on what? I listened on Spotify. What do you have on?
So Spotify, it's on Spotify and it's on Apple. Just those 2 platforms for now. I started out and I made myself the promise I would do 1 a month for the first year and get my feet wet and figure it out. So like I said, I'm still winging it. I'm still a rookie in the game, but it's on Apple and it's on Spotify, and maybe someday I'll be brave enough to do the video and we'll put it on YouTube. We'll just see where it goes.
Yeah.
But they can find us on Facebook and on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, very cool. Well, thanks for reaching out, and thanks for doing this collaboration. It's been awesome.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Thanks for riding along with me on Horses, Hope, and Hustle. If you found even a little bit of inspiration or grit here today, share it with a friend, leave a review, or tag us on socials, and keep showing up for what truly matters. Until next time, stay true, stay tough, and keep hustling.